Hey, I'm Abby and welcome back to the Life Work Balance YouTube channel. Today I want to talk to you about questions you can ask at the end of an interview that are the hard or the hesitation questions. Now these are some of the most controversial questions that you could ask during an interview. And when I say controversial, not necessarily controversial within the actual interview, but controversial based off of my previous videos. In my most popular video about the 3 different types of questions that you can ask at the end of the interview, I receive lots of feedback about these hesitation or hard questions. So let's talk about why you should ask them, and then I've got 10 examples that you could ask during the end of your next interview. Before we jump into that, please go ahead and give this video a thumbs up if you're looking forward to hearing some of those example questions. And if you haven't already, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well as the bell so that you can receive life work balance advice delivered directly to you every Sunday. So first, what are some of the common concerns about asking these hard or hesitation questions? Well, the first is that maybe you'll come off as too direct or too pushy. Maybe it's just not culturally appropriate to ask those types of questions. Maybe you're worried that the interviewers won't actually provide you feedback. Or by asking this type of hesitation or hard question, maybe you will appear unconfident, that you're worried about what they were thinking about you, that you're not confident in your skills, or you thought the interview went poorly, or maybe you just are uncomfortable asking for feedback. So yes, while it is possible that you might just receive a very political, surface level response to one of the hard or hesitation questions, in most cases, I found that the opposite happens. Interviewers are often happy to provide interviewees with feedback about their experience, their education, and their interview as a whole. Asking for feedback also changes the conversation from one way to two-way. It becomes more of a conversation rather than a true one-way interview. You also get the opportunity to respond to any concerns, maybe miscommunications or misconceptions about your experience, your education, and what you're bringing to this new role. It also demonstrates that you are not only open to feedback, but that you can receive it well and that you actively request it, which is something that is likely going to be important to you as you enter this new role. And then you've got the added perk of getting that feedback live during the interview so that your anxiety and any worry, stress, or tension that you might have leaving the interview is likely reduced. So there's a lot of benefits to asking these types of questions. Now, again, while it is possible that you might receive the political service level response of, oh, we had no concerns or hesitation about you, and then you don't get the call back, you probably dodged a bullet there. That was probably a warning flag that if they weren't willing to give you the feedback during the interview, they probably wouldn't be willing to give you feedback in real time while you were in the job. And then you might be blindsided by feedback or criticism when you're actually in the position during that annual performance evaluation. So it is to your benefit to ask this question during the interview process. I've also received feedback from people who have had success answering this question, and their interviewers are usually blown away by their courage and their vulnerability to ask these questions. So if you want to impress your interviewer and you want to get feedback about how your interview went, ask these hard or hesitation questions at the end of your interview. So let's get into it. I've got 10 examples of questions that you can ask at the end of your interview that are hard, somewhat uncomfortable, hesitation-based questions that will really help you solicit that feedback and work to improve in future interviews or maybe even get the job. So the first question is rather simple and straightforward, and it is there anything else that I can clarify? This might be clarify about your education, your experience, maybe a story or a situation that you shared to answer one of the behavioral-based interview questions, but that's a pretty safe, easy question to ask. You could also ask, based on what we've discussed so far, do you have any hesitations about my fit for the position? Now this is a little bit harder to ask. Again, it takes courage, it takes some vulnerability and bravery on your part, and then it also requires the same from the interviewer to give you that real-time honest feedback about how the position went. Now they might give you some feedback, you'll be able to respond to it, or they might honestly say they have no hesitations or concerns and they're ready to move forward with you into the position. The next question that you could ask would be, if I were to get this position, what do you see as my biggest challenge? This question, again, is a little bit safer to ask because it's more of a hypothetical, but it still is asking for some of that feedback about what they think your biggest challenge might be in this position. This is a good opportunity for you to somewhat defend yourself and clarify how they don't have to be concerned about that. Or it's a good mirror to let you know that you do have some gaps and maybe this isn't the right position for you at the time. A different question that you could ask would be, do I have any gaps in my experience or education that make you hesitant about my fit for this role? Just blatantly asking the question, do I have any gaps, gives them the opportunity to reflect on your education and your experience and bring up any gaps that they could see being a challenge for you entering into this new role. You could also ask, do you have any concerns about me filling this position that I may have an opportunity to address? This is being direct, but being direct doesn't mean that you're being rude. It is really giving them the opportunity to tell you if they have any concerns and giving you the opportunity to address those concerns. You could also ask, is there any other experience you're looking for? Would you say that my experience is a good match for this role? Asking this type of question, again, sets you up for success because it lets you know what sorts of experience they are prioritizing and they're looking for if you have that experience, and if you don't, it gives you the opportunity to justify how your experience, or even lack thereof, still makes you a good fit for this position. Now you could also ask, have you been finding good candidates for this position? How do my qualifications compare with the other candidates you've talked to? Now this isn't asking them to give any personal or identifying information away about the other candidates. It's purely asking for feedback about how you measure up against the other people who have applied. Now they might be able to say, we found some really good candidates who have strong educational backgrounds, but are lacking the hands-on practical experience. You might have the hands-on practical experience that they're looking for. You could also ask, what are the other people involved in the hiring or interview process looking for in a candidate? How do I fit what you and what they are looking for? This asks more about the different qualities of the candidates that could be filling this position and what sorts of qualities and characteristics are important to everyone who is involved in the hiring process. An additional question that you could ask would be, based on our interaction today, do you believe I'd match well with the role and the team? If not, what areas could I improve? So if they say no, then you may not be getting the job, but it does give you an idea on what areas you could improve. If they say no, and you have an opportunity to kind of address some of those concerns, then you might have just given yourself the opportunity to really get the job and be extra competitive. And the final example question that I have in this area is, based on our interview today, what is your biggest concern about me, my experience, or my education that could hinder my success in this role? Now, it's a great way to phrase this question because it's asking about your success in the role rather than kind of you individually. So yes, it's talking about you, your education, your experience, etc., but it's framing it in the way of being successful in the position. It shows that you truly want to be successful and that you're open to this feedback so that you have the opportunity to be the most successful as possible. So again, by asking these different types of questions, sure, you might get the politician response, which is really no response at all, and that's fine. That might happen. You might also get some insight into some areas of weakness that you need to work to improve. You might get some insight into something that was misunderstood or misconstrued or miscommunicated that you have the opportunity to clarify. But more importantly, hopefully, after asking some of these hesitation questions, you will be able to leave the interview feeling confident that it went well or you did everything that you could to ensure that it would go well. You have some areas for feedback or growth where you can work to improve for future interviews. And you don't have that underlying feeling of tension, anxiety, or worry, wondering about what you could have done better or maybe what went wrong. So in a perfect world, the interviewer will provide you with some feedback if you ask some of these hard or hesitation questions. I've got my fingers crossed for you. You can ask at least one of these questions during your next upcoming interview, and you're going to likely blow the socks off of the interviewers, even if things don't go 100% your way and you get the job. It at least gives you some insight and some ideas on how you can work to improve for your next interview. So, hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you have any additional thoughts, questions, comments, or ideas on asking these hard or hesitation questions, please put them in the comments box below. I'd love to hear what you think about asking these questions, if you've asked them in the past, what has worked well for you and what hasn't really worked well. Your experience that you share in the comments will help someone else who's going through something similar right now. If you haven't already, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well as the bell so that you can receive life, work, balance advice delivered directly to you every Sunday. And if you would like some one-on-one personalized coaching on how to be your best self for your upcoming interview, please consider reaching out to me today for an interview strategy session. I have a limited number of spots available each week to do interview strategy sessions with my clients. So if you would like to work with me one-on-one to set yourself up for success for your upcoming interview, please reach out to me today. I've linked to my email as well as my services page on my website in the description box below, so you can check out my pricing and see what sorts of services I offer that could be the best fit for you. Thanks, and I'll see you next week.